Did you know that 2 million people completed a half marathon last year? Imagine being a part of that community. In this training, you will learn everything you need to prepare for your first half marathon, from training tips to gear recommendations. Many first time runners feel overwhelmed by the idea of running 13.1 miles, often unsure where to start and how to stay motivated. This is why I have my co-pilot with me here today, Coach LaToya from our Healthy Runner team. What's going on? How you doing today, Coach?
Hello, hello. All is well. I hope you're as excited as I am because I do love talking first time, new to everybody. Getting yourself ready for this. This makes me excited to watch people take on something new and fly and see how successful they can be. Yeah, I'm excited for this.
I know this is a area that you are extremely passionate about, is getting people into running to begin with, but then to like actually train for their first half marathon. And for all of the new people to our Healthy Runner community, if they're not familiar with you, can you just please share who you are and what you do?
All right. So, Coach Latoya, busy mom, athlete. I'm a runner just like you guys. I'm working. I'm trying to get it all in, and I love the whole process of it. I love seeing other people succeed, which is why I love coaching, which is why I do the work that I do, service level work. And it keeps me busy, it keeps me fun, and I'm just ready to always talk running. So that's one of my passions, and I really like to share that with you, and that's why I'm here. And that's what I do when I'm thinking running a lot and all times, and I'm ready to help everybody else see how fun and successful they can be with running.
I love it. And, thinking back to your first half marathon, um, do you remember that feeling and or remember that experience for your first half marathon?
I do. That was way back in 2008. I think it was 7 or 8, 2007 or 8. They all start to blur, all these races. But my first one is one you'll never forget. And I remember saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm really doing this. Holy crap, I'm really doing this. Can I do this?" And I was nervous. I was trained. I don't know if I was mentally prepared, but I got out there and I did it. And when I finished, I was so proud of myself. I remember having my brothers come and cheer me on, and I was just ecstatic to see me do what I did, and I could say I did it, and you saw me. So I was really proud of myself. Um, the training, the training was fun. I learned a lot about myself through training, and it's only helped me continue my love of running and taking the things I learned that worked and didn't work into my next races and into life, because that's how this works with running, and it touches every part of your life.
Yeah, and that is, I love that you have that experience that this was like epic. And which race was it? Was it here in Connecticut?
I did. My first race was the Fairfield Half Marathon, and it was the hilly course. It was a hot day. It was obviously sunny. It was in the middle of June, and there were so many of us out there, hot, sweaty, saying, "What were we doing?" But we continued to do it, and I just remember feeling so proud of myself for starting something, committing, and finishing it. I was really The rest is history. I haven't stopped.
Yeah, that's a tough one to do. I've done that many times, and I ran it once or twice before they changed the course where it was all the hills. And
Mhm.
yes, that is a hot race. My first half marathon was about 2 years into my adult onset running journey. So this was back in 2013, and this was literally my hometown half marathon. So I live in Cheshire, Connecticut, and this was the Cheshire Half Marathon. So we have a very small, we call it a betting community here in Cheshire. And however, it's probably like the third largest, I would say, maybe fourth largest half marathon in the state of the small
Yes,
little state of
absolutely
Connecticut.
is. Yeah.
So it is kind of odd that it is in our small town. But I do remember running that in 2013. It was definitely something that was the next step up in like a running journey. And you listening to this might feel that way, where maybe you've done some 5Ks, you maybe tried running. Like I never thought I could be a runner. I was kind of like a gym person. I would run on the treadmill. I'd always get shin splints, and started running after I had hip surgery. And I ran some 5Ks and I was like, this is kind of fun. It's kind of challenging. And then I did a 10K, and then it was like, oh, this is the next logical step. There's this half marathon right in my town. Why not sign up for it? Let's try it. Let's do it. So that was definitely a special moment too. And looking back now at my time, like it was definitely pretty fast for like a first half marathon. Granted, I was a lot younger than I am now, but I did a I just subbed literally by a minute, a 1:36:59. So I could say I got a 1:36 half
Your
marathon. If I
first.
can run that in the next 2 years, I'd be like extremely happy. But
Yeah.
it was that like first stepping stone, right? In like advancing in the running journey. I then went on to run, I think 25 more half marathons after that. And then like before kind of taking it to like the marathon, I guess, season or journey that I'm in now. But the first half marathon is that special moment. And in today's training, we are going to cover really the essential training plans, running tips, mental strategies to help you build confidence and endurance as
Yeah.
race day approaches. And if you stick around long enough, we will share the top 3 tips that could make or break your half marathon experience, ensuring that you cross that finish line with a smile on your face. And yes, you got to cross with a nice smile, looking up at the camera, get that nice like photo as you go through the finish line. And I will also have a bonus download for you. This is something special that I've never done before. I'm not a big fan of plans, but this is one that you will want to save for yourself because it is filled with so much value. So as someone starts to approach their first half marathon, coach, how many weeks like does it take that you should actually train for a half marathon?
So a coach's favorite answer is it depends. And it depends because we need to know where you are in your season, your chapter of running. If you've got months of running under your belt, you may not need the 12 to the 20 weeks, 12 to 20 weeks. You could maybe get it in 10 to 14. It really depends on if you have any base miles, how comfortable you are out there, where you're not, maybe not stamina, but where you are in your journey. If you're brand new right off the 5K, training,
Or
then
even off the
you
couch, right?
off the couch, even better off the couch. And then we're going to look at 12 to really 20 weeks in some cases, depending on, again, where you are on so many levels of training. And there's no right or wrong training plan. It's what works for you in reference to time. So if someone can jump into a half marathon, good for them. That's not right for you. It's really not. It's individual running as a solo sport in that regard. You do what's best for you. And it might be 20 weeks, it might be 10. It depends on where that base and how much knowledge you have on your body with running is.
Okay, so if you found this and you're thinking about or considering a half marathon, what Coach LaToya is saying is you have to plan for this, right? You need to be thinking 3, 4, 5, 6 months in advance before you actually do this half marathon. So if you heard about a half marathon in 2 months from now and you're not trained at all, no, it's not a good idea to sign up for that as your first half marathon. We need to be thinking about this in advance. We want to have a base level of training established, at least running 3 times a week, at least being able to do a 4 mile run, right, as like a long run before you actually start officially training for a half marathon or doing a 12-week plan or doing a 14-week plan or doing a 16-week plan, right? You have to have this established. So, great point there. So, let's talk training plans because I know this is a big thing in the running community. There's so many training plans, and I feel like every single month there's probably a new app coming out
There is.
that does some different training plans. So, how to choose the right half marathon training plan? What are some of the options out there?
So there are lots of options, and sometimes it's a trial and error, but you have to have a plan. Pick one. Pick one. We've got a couple common plans, and the Galloway method. Lots of people know the Galloway method. That's a run walk method. And then there's other methods. Hanson's is one of them. There's another one, Mick something. I can't think of it now. But that's
Yeah.
more of a volume. You're going to train. You're going to run a lot, and those are great plans. There's also the heart rate method, which is another good plan. It's for you, but they all need to look at the big picture. Is that something you can do? Are you comfortable with run walking? Do you have the time to put in lots of miles with a heavy volume training plan? Is heart rate for you? Are you okay with running at a perceived slower rate than some of your other friends might be running with, or even you are used to? So those are all three common methods that a lot of our athletes have trained with and stepped in to running with and changed and converted. It didn't work for them, but those are three.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of good plans out there. So Jeff Galloway, who's actually been on the Healthy Runner podcast before, great guy, full of wisdom, knowledge. He started this whole system to be able to be literally do structured run walk intervals, so you can actually run a half marathon without it feeling like it's the hardest thing ever. So it is a fantastic plan if you are literally like not trained at all, coming off the couch. That is what I would probably recommend for you. And we actually have a great training, and check out that episode on how to implement the run walk method that I spoke about with Jeff. And, that is fantastic method. It doesn't really include strength training, but it is true. It is like a great plan for true beginners, right? So if you're a very, very beginner, like haven't really run much, that's honestly what I would recommend for like a way to get started there. Um, the Hansen method, I know you had mentioned that one. That is focused on a lot of intensity, and it is focused more for the seasoned half marathoner because they really promote like breaking through and achieving like a best half marathon performance. So that one, if this is your first half marathon, I definitely wouldn't recommend, honestly, use the Hansen method, because I have seen a lot of runners who have worked with me specifically as a running physical therapist because they got injured with the amount of volume trying to follow a Hansen plan. So even if you are an athletic person, and I was one of those people when I first started my running journey as an adult, I felt like I was like, hey, man, I'm an athlete. Like I've been working out. I go to the gym 5-6 times a week.
Mhm.
And running is different and training for a half marathon is different. So don't, I guess, get fooled by thinking like you are a great athlete and you're going to go after this more performance based plan. Get your first half marathon under your belt and then think about like improving performance. So I probably wouldn't recommend the Hansen for you, for your first half marathon. The Hal Higdon plans, super popular. I think that was literally the one I used for like my first half marathon. The biggest thing about that plan, that I think is important for you to consider as a new runner is they do encourage cross training 2 times a week, which I don't necessarily think is the best strategy for beginner half marathoners. And they only suggest maybe doing strength training. And when they suggest the strength training, they leave it up to you on when to do it. And they recommend doing it light and doing it on the day of a run. So I don't necessarily recommend that based upon my experience helping thousands of people achieve their first half marathon. So that what I would say is, some of the flaws with that plan. And then I know you mentioned the low heart rate maftone method. That is focused more on like building a base, maintaining hormonal balance, fat burning. It is kind of more with that philosophy that you are burning fat, and doesn't really look at the energy demands that it takes to train for your first half marathon. So I think our registered dietitian, Brooke, would have some criticisms if you are strictly using that plan. But these are just some of the plans. There's so many more out there, like I mentioned, with all these new apps coming out. I think the biggest thing for people to consider, because a lot of our devices now, any watch, like Apple Watch, Garmin Watch, like any watch, is going to have a plan. The thing that I've seen a lot of is a lot of these plans go into the details of like running and doing very different types of runs, and aren't necessarily the best for someone's first half marathon. Meaning they have you running a speed day where you're doing intervals, and then they have you doing long run, and then they have you doing longer intervals, like let's say a tempo run or a threshold pace. I find there's way too much speed work for someone who's building up their longest long runs ever in their life. And I do see a lot of folks getting injured with those types of plans. So you really want to make sure that regardless of what plan that you're following, that it does balance recovery, and there's cutback weeks in the plan. It balances like the stresses to your body, because this is your first half marathon. It is the first time you're putting these stresses on your body. So you need to balance the recovery, and you do need to strength train, because that is going to be super, super important for injury prevention. So I really would highly, highly recommend that you stay away from plans with speed work unless you are an experienced 5K, 10K racer, meaning you're going after performance. You've done speed work before and trained for a 10K and a 5K and have demonstrated that you can do that healthy, and now you're maybe running your first half marathon, then that is the only scenario that I would recommend choosing a plan that has speed work. Do you agree with that, Coach?
I everything you said makes sense. And I want to just point out that if you have experience and you're thinking, I'm going to go hot and heavy, I'm going to go with a plan that has a lot of volume on it, and or some cross training, your tissues need time to recover from all that load of your traditional exercises that you're doing, cross training and whatnot, and the new demands of all of those miles on your body. Whether you're seasoned or not, you may not have as long of a need for recovery, but we all need recovery. And we may not have that mindset when we go into it and say, oh, I got this 4 days of running, 3 days of lifting. I don't need a day off. You do need those days off. No matter what the plan is, recovery is crucial, crucial for success.
Absolutely. 1000%. And this is a common question that we get with a lot of the athletes who are in our half marathon training program is, how fast should I run for the runs or for half marathon training? What do you say to that?
I love this question. And the question is, you should not be running fast. You should be running with an easy effort. You should be running with something where you're having pleasure doing, that's not all out running fast as you can. A lot of athletes don't realize how fast they're running until they stop, take the time, and really intentionally run easy. When we have a large volume of miles on us, we don't want to start strong and peter out at the end. So it's important to have that easy, consistent conversational. One of my favorite things to tell people, you and I should be able to talk while we're running. Most people are aghast when I say that. And that's something they think is impossible until they become conscious of the effort required to slow down and stay there. And then they find it a lot more pleasurable, and their bodies like it as well.
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't make it as hard and daunting, especially for those long runs. So I would agree that you're going at that conversational pace. And, for those that are wearing heart rate monitors or looking at, their devices, number one, the ones on your watch are not 100% reliable. So don't totally get freaked out if you're seeing some numbers that are super high, super low, depending upon the conditions that you're training in. If it's really, really humid, if it's really, really cold, if you're not getting great contact of the sensor on your skin, those can be unreliable. So don't get too freaked out about that. But if you're really looking, let's say you're in your 40s, 50s, as long as that heart rate ideally should be anywhere between 130 to 150 ish. If you're in like the 160s heart rate, 170, way too high of an effort, right? Like you're most likely not keeping a conversation at that level. So, don't get super, super granular about this. Like you are starting to run your longest distances, just make sure that you're keeping it easy. And this is the key for actually advancing in the training and
So,
being able to complete 13.1. Because the mistake that a lot of people make is that they are running too fast on a daily basis because they have some type of race goal in their mind. And then they kind of do some math and say, well, I need to run at a 9-minute pace in order to finish that 13.1 on race day. So that means I need to train at a 9-minute pace. Can you just explain that real quick, Coach? I know, because that's a common thing that we get a lot.
It really is. And I think a lot of new half marathon, new runners in general, don't realize that we have to build our aerobic base, build our lungs up. And we can't run hard all the time because we don't build our bodies up for race day 12, 20 weeks later. If we run hard consistently all the time, we don't get that acclimation and we don't have that differentiation from easy to really fast and hard running. And we don't know where we're at if we're constantly running hard. We need to let our bodies acclimate, and that easy running feels different than hard running. And if I only run hard, then I don't know what easy feels like. I just want to point out there that when you're first training for a half marathon, any race really, your long runs should be something you celebrate at the finish of that run, whether it's 3 miles, 5 miles, your first 10 miler, you should be celebrating how you feel and feeling good there. You should maybe feel tired, but you shouldn't feel exhausted or dead. And a lot of those new runners think running can be hard, 8 miles out there. I'm going to die. I feel dead at the end. Something has to be adjusted. And it's typically your effort. You're not running at the right pace for that distance to build volume where you organically speed up and get faster because your aerobic base is growing.
Absolutely. And you mentioned kind of miles, like 8 mile, long run. So that's another common question. Like, how many miles should I run for a half marathon training?
I think it depends. I love my favorite answer. It depends. It depends on where you are, what plan you're doing, and your experience. We don't have every beginning marathon athlete run 12 miles. Some run 11, some run 10. It really depends on your plan and where you are, and again, how many weeks you are. Some beginner runners will get to 12 and be so ready to go ready for 13.1. They're thrilled. Some might get to 11 and no, I'm confident. We don't have to run 13 miles and then run the race. We don't have to have big volume all the time.
So
We have
wait,
to
I'm
have the
not
appropriate
supposed to run
levels.
13 miles before I actually run my half marathon race?
Not when it's your first half marathon, not when you're a beginner. No, I want you to come back successful and love it. And then once we get some more miles under your belt, we can talk about a different level of training. But the first beginning half marathon should really not have too much long volume. We want to have you building up appropriately and recovering, because if we run too far, too long, we don't get the recovery as a new runner on our body for
But
race
how
day.
do I know I'm going to actually be able to finish 13 miles on race day?
You absolutely will by following a strength training plan, running appropriately, recovering, resting. I believe in a Netflix and chill day, at least one day a week, please. And you don't have to actually Netflix and chill. You just need to take it off from the running, let your body recover. You will, because you've built your mileage up week by week by week, cut back week by week, you will grow with success. And there's something about that first half marathon, that race, you find the will when you've trained properly and your injuries are nil, to finish 13.1 successfully. You will. It'll happen. Have faith in yourself, trust the plan, and keep showing up.
Yeah, guys, like adrenaline is a real thing. And you are going to have adrenaline on race day. So literally the minimum number of miles that you need to run to finish a half marathon, we'll call it safely, because I've heard some crazy stories of people like running 6 miles and then running a half marathon. They usually get injured and or, wind up not running for weeks after that. But our goal at Spark Healthy Runner is to get you to the start line safely, get you to the finish line, and then you're actually looking forward to continuing in your running journey. And for a half marathon, usually it's within that week, you're back to getting in those mind clearing miles, getting back on the road and running consistently. The minimum number of miles, though, in order for you to complete a half marathon, is actually a 10-mile
Yeah.
long run. So if you can run 10 miles, you technically can finish a half marathon. Like, you will on race day be able to run 3 more miles. Like, with adrenaline in a race setting, there's other people around you, you will be able to do it. So it is just such a common thing that we hear all the time, and people freak out of like, I have to run 13 miles. because I need to know that I can actually do it before I actually do it. But that
Trust
is
you.
a race setting.
Yeah.
And yes, you don't want to go into a race setting. And for your first half marathon, that effort is going to be a big effort. We don't want a big effort in training, because that's when we open the window and increase your risk profile for getting a running related injury, or what we call an overuse injury, because we did too much too soon, too much load. So yes, what you said, LaToya, is like 100%, accurate. And if you guys again are thinking, I don't know about that, like I feel like I need to, I'll give you another reason not to
Hmm.
run 13 miles is anytime that you're running longer than 2 hours.
Yes.
So for me, with my easy runs at a 10-minute pace, that's a 12-mile long run. Anytime you're over 2 hours, you're really increasing that risk profile, especially if it's your first half marathon, that you will get injured, that your shins are going to start hurting, that your Achilles is going to start hurting, your IT band is going to start hurting. So we don't want that for you.
Yeah.
So trust us when we tell you that you really only need to do a 10-mile long run. And I would say for our beginner half marathoners, because how we kind of structure our program and our plan, we will usually have, if it's first time half marathon and you are a true beginner runner, running 11 as your longest long run. And then again, based upon experience, you might be doing 12-mile long run, but definitely never something more than that. So, all right, let's talk about, you talked about like Netflix and chill before, and having like a rest day. So how many rest days should I take during half marathon training?
So as a beginner runner, you're going to need more recovery than maybe someone who's more seasoned, but we all need recovery with that statement being said. So 2 to 3 days of recovery, I think, is ideal for a very new beginner. Again, we don't realize what we're doing when we're out there running, how much activity and load we're putting on the body. It needs to recover and it needs time. Sleep is magical for that recovery. Sleep and not having overuse, repetitive use injuries by running too much, not giving your body time to adjust and acclimate. Your tendons, ligaments, they all need time to figure out what the heck they're doing and to recover stronger for every run you come back on. So 2 or 3, depending upon the plan, of course.
Yeah, I would say, definitely, um, like absolutely one rest day, right? We definitely need absolutely one rest recovery day where you are not running, you are not um, doing strength training, you're not doing any other hard form of exercise. If you want to do a restorative yoga class, I'm totally cool with that. If you want to really go in the pool and just like move your legs around and do something very gentle, absolutely. Totally cool with that. If you want to go on a bike and just move your legs on like a level 3 resistance for like 20 or 30 minutes, I'm totally cool with that. That will help recovery. But if you think a spinning class at your gym is a recovery day because you're not running, no, that is not a recovery day.
So,
Or if you think some strength power yoga or hot yoga is a recovery day, no, that is not a recovery day. Okay. Recovery is a part of the training. And I would agree, at least one recovery day. And for a lot of our beginners, we'll program 2 recovery days. So that might look like 4 days of running, 2 days of strength. So that would be like 6 days, right? And then you have one rest recovery day. Or we would program, especially if you have a history of previous injuries, maybe you're a little older, um, and maybe you've had some, who knows, mild arthritis in your knees, let's just say, right? Then what we'd probably do is maximize 2 full rest recovery days. And then one day we'll take your shortest run that you're doing, and then you'll do strength right after that. And we'll kind of make sure that that strength is a shorter strength, like 25 minutes of strength. So then you have 2 full days for your body to rest and recover. And then the other thing I'll usually add is we will tend to program that rest recovery day for true beginners. I personally really like the day after the long run, but
Yeah.
you could also do the day before the long run. So you definitely want either before the long run or after the long run as a rest recovery day, because you will need that. That's important to do around the long run, because the long run is going to be the key for your success. And actually, I guess we kind of spoiled it. It was going to be my next question to you is kind of how long should your long run be in half marathon training? And I think we kind of covered that, but maybe you can reiterate it and summarize it.
So I definitely think the long run in conjunction with a recovery day before or after is magical. You look forward to that recovery day after the long run, or you're feeling fresh and ready to go if it's the day before your long run. And those long runs can be ideally the longest run of the week is what we want that to be. And we want it to be some people are on the road for 2 hours. That's a long time. We don't want that long run taking up the whole all of your life, which is why that recovery day is important before or after, because it helps you bounce right back. Long runs are the longest run of the week. They're focused. And if we do them properly and not run too fast during them, you can have success the rest of the week. And your long run should be planned in your plan for you to have success. Don't have it your long run the day after you've just done full yard work and moved into a new home. We want to have that strategically planned for your success so that long run doesn't become longer and harder, and again takes longer to recover with. So it can be kind of a scheduling thing. You have to plan for your success. It works that way.
Yeah, in the rehab world, we call this like the weekend warriors, right? So you're like all busy with work during the week. So on the weekend, you just like cram everything in. You're like, I'm gonna get my long run in. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna do this painting project, or I'm gonna like landscape my whole backyard. And that is when we get into trouble with getting injured as like adults, because we're stacking everything in like these 2 days. So what LaToya is talking about is just making sure that you're aware of that. And if this is your first half marathon, like you've made the goal, right? You've made the commitment. You've signed up for the race. Like this should be your priority for these couple of weeks, especially the second half of the training, because that is going to be the most strain on your body when those long runs get long, right? So when you do get to that, 12 miler or 11 miler that I was alluding to before, but those long runs are going to really advance from the beginning. It could be a 4 mile long run to start. It could be a 5 mile long run. So it could be a 6 mile long run, but you're going to gradually kind of advance those long runs. And then can you just speak to the point of long runs, LaToya, like how you like to program them? Like, do you just keep going up and up and up? Like every week it's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
So it's not linear like that. We go up and then we come back down, and that coming back down is crucial. I've had lots of athletes, hey coach, I just ran 8 this week and now I'm running 6. Why did I go backwards? I wanted to run 9. And I have to explain to them we have to give our bodies time to recover and acclimate from that load. And those are called cutback weeks. And I like to have my athletes look forward to the cutback week. It's a little bit of a bigger breath from the planning or the time needed for training. You get a little bit of more freedom back, more time back that cutback week. And when you properly take advantage of that cutback week, one, you look forward to it, but two, you come back ready to go that next week when you look at the calendar and you say, we went from 8 to 6 to 9, or maybe we went to 10, and you're not feeling nervous or unsure about yourself because you're feeling fresh and ready because of those ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. It's not hard hockey stick up. That's recipe for injury. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's why we don't do 6 week half marathon plans, right? Because you don't go from like 6 miles to 12 miles in 6 weeks and boom, you're done, right? Because that is the fast track to getting injured and not being able to complete 13.1. So I couldn't agree more with that. And then the last thing I'll add, LaToya, is the whole walking thing. Like we mentioned the whole like Jeff Galloway method of run walk. And we program a lot of run walk intervals for a lot of our athletes within our one-on-one coaching program. But a lot of times I find runners, especially if they're going to conquer their first half marathon for some reason, because I feel like it is a big jump, right? Like to go from like a 5K or a 10K to a half marathon, it's a pretty big jump. And I get this a lot too of like, well, I need to run the whole thing because like this is what I'm doing. I'm like going to be a runner. I'm going to run a half marathon, right? Like my runner air quotes there. So I can't walk at all. So no matter what I feel during this long run, like I'm going to run through this thing. What do you say to that?
I think that we need to show up for ourselves where we are and be okay with ourselves where we are and not force it, because if you force it, it's not meant to be and things can go wrong. So how you train is important, but running and walking, if that's how you trained, that's how you're going to show up on race day. We just don't run, walk training and then run 13 miles. That's not what we trained for. And if when race day happens and something doesn't go magically the way it's supposed to be and you need to walk, it is absolutely 100% okay to do that. And I think it's more frowned upon to not run. To not walk and just to run. It's better to have you take yourself back. The run community is welcoming to you. We want you to succeed. So if you need to walk, you walk. There's no one looking at you and saying, oh, they're not a runner. 13.1, they didn't come through. Absolutely not. We want nothing but your success. The run community wants for you to succeed, and we want you to walk. We want you to walk and run. We want you to do whatever it is to get you through 13.1. But I can tell you that your confidence grows in where you will be on race day when you stick with the plan and you're consistent and you can feel that confidence knowing that, all right, you know what? I'm going to walk through this water stop. I'm okay with it because when I pick it up again, I'm going to be stronger and better for it. And I'm going to be so much more proud of myself for listening to me. And that's what we need to do more often is just listen to ourselves. And that's when we can really take off, when we honor ourselves better.
That's great. And that really reiterates. I had this conversation with Jason Fitzgerald on the episode right before this about mental toughness.
Yeah.
And being mentally tough is actually having that self awareness to know when to not push. Because if you push, that's going to lead to an injury. Or if you push, that's going to lead to you feeling really crappy for your next run. Right. And so we were talking about is like, it's okay to actually take a walk break. Right. So if your legs are feeling heavy, your legs are feeling tired, your breathing is getting a little out of the zone that we mentioned before and feeling easy or conversational based, then take a walk break. Because honestly, that's what you're going to need to do for your race day anyway. And we do encourage a lot of our first time half marathoners to walk through those water stops during the race. So you might as well practice that in training. And yeah, don't ever feel ashamed that you're walking. Like it's okay to walk to kind of reset. Number one, reset the body, but then also maybe reset the mindset because you started getting a little anxious. You started feeling like, oh my goodness, like at mile 8, this is feeling really hard. And I'm supposed to do my first 10-mile long run. Like this is big, like this is first double digits. And like you start putting a lot of pressure on yourself and now your heart rate goes higher because now you're starting to panic. Like, I don't know if I can finish this run. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Why did I sign up for this half marathon? Like, who am I kidding? Like, I can't do this, right? You get all these
Yeah.
like thoughts in your head. It's okay to walk. It will
Is
calm your mind. It will allow your body to actually rest a little bit and recover. And then you'll have that energy to finish that long run. And you will finish that long run, by the way.
You absolutely will. I think when those hiccups happen during the training plan, and I think I want them to happen. I don't want this to be smooth sailing because if something wrong happens on race day, you're going to freak out a little bit. So when those things do happen, I think it's important to stop, finish your run, regroup yourself, and then sit back and reflect. Did something go? Why was this run harder than usual? Did I not get enough sleep? Did I just have a fight with my significant other before I went for the run? Are the kids sick and I feel like I should be at home? All that comes into play. So if we stop and reflect, we can better show up. So those moments are more understandable. So you can say, "Oh, I'm still a runner. I got this. I had 3 nights, 3 hours of sleep, and I went out on an 8 mile run. Not a good idea, first of all, but." You're going to be able to reflect and say,
Definitely
hey,
not.
that's why my run was poor. That's why I needed to walk. Yeah, I can do this. I just had 3 hours of sleep. Not a good choice, LaToya. Try again on the next one. I think we learn from those things, and that's really important to have those hiccups happen.
Absolutely. And I think there's a lot more information. Hopefully, if you've listened to this podcast before, you've heard us talk about strength training. But if someone's running their first half marathon, like, should they strength train while actually training for their first half marathon?
100% yes. 100%. Strength training is almost the secret sauce. It's not all running. We need to strengthen those run specific muscles that you're going to be on for 2 hours during the race, or an hour during your first long run. You've never run an hour before. We want you to have that foundation of having those muscles fire and engage repetitively over and over again without fatigue. And strength training really, I wish, this is why we're on the platform. This is why we're doing this. We want more people to strength train to run. It makes a difference.
It is key, guys, to keeping you injury free. And the one thing I'll add there is, if you've never lifted weights before, like, we're not telling you to go into the gym, sign up to work with a personal trainer for like 2 sessions, show you how to use the machines, and you start like using heavy weights for your first half marathon training. No, I would not recommend that whatsoever. You really want to wait till after your half marathon to maybe lift some heavier weights if you've never strength trained before. But I do have my top 7 exercises for runners that they can do in the comfort of their own home that really activate your run specific muscles. And you can do this all within 25 minutes. And you can follow along with me. I talk you through the exercise of how to do them. This is a great way for you to start to implement strength training, and this will be protective for your body while you're training for this half marathon. So I will actually drop the link to that instructional video in the freebie download that I have for you. But yes, you need to really consider strength training with your half marathon training, because it will help you stay healthy during the training so you enjoy the race and you finish the race. And if you're an experienced lifter, I will tell you, because that was me again, like, I was the gym rat, right? Like, when I ran my first half marathon, I would definitely continue lifting that your body is used to. But given this is your first half marathon, I would highly recommend you drop down the frequency, because I get a lot of runners too I work with. They're like, yeah, I usually go to the gym 4 to 5 times per week. You need to drop it down. I would highly recommend to 2 days a week, maybe 3 days if you're like a true upper body day, but no more than 2 days of strengthening your leg muscles. And then I would also have you do that on non-run days. So I would not, for your first half marathon training, have you do a run and then strength training after it. Um, that is more of an advanced concept for someone who's done multiple half marathons, multiple races, marathons, where we actually stack and do hard days hard, easy days easy. So if you've heard that from other people before, but this is your first half marathon, I would not do that. I would actually have them on opposite days. And then the other point I'll make is, do not do your strength training day the day before your long run, because again, these are the longest distances that you've ever run in your life. You want to have fresh legs. And LaToya talked about maybe doing a full rest day the day before your long run. I would definitely not do strength the day before your long run, so your legs feel fresh. So what about this concept of cross training? Should I cross train when training for my first half marathon?
I think cross training has a place, and cross training, again, depends on where you are in your first journey as a half marathoner. Cross training, in some cases, won't give your body the time it needs to recover, depending upon the exercise and the intensity of it. So, cross training has a place. I would prefer strength training, but if we need to, then we need to keep our cross training at a minimum. Really, we really want your body to acclimate to what you're focusing and training for, and that is the half marathon and running. Um, when we have a plan that's appropriate in progression, we're going to find that we're recovering just fine. Don't add cross training in because we feel like we need to do more. That's what we don't want to do. But I'm going to go spin for an hour, have my long run, and then show up. That's really not beneficial when it comes to cross training in that regard.
Yeah, and again, we work with a lot of runners, whether it is like Orange Theory Fitness, whether it is your boot camp style class that you love to go to, you have a community, whether it's spinning, whether it's right, like there's so many programs out there now, whether it's you love doing your Peloton, workouts. Um, if you've committed to doing your first half marathon, that needs to be the priority. How are you going to finish your first half marathon? It's gradually increasing your weekly mileage. It's getting in the long runs. It's maximizing recovery. It's doing strength training. So if you've hit all four, I think I'm on, of those buckets, then if you've hit all those four buckets and you still have time in your day, busy life, work, family, kids, all that stuff, then yes, you can add cross training in. But again, I probably would not do max more than 2 days. Usually, I would say one day, honestly, a week. So you need to think about your priorities. And I know sometimes we can be very regimented. We love our routines. We love our communities. We love going to that class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because that's what you've been doing for the last 5 or 10 years. If you do that, you are running the risk that you will not be able to complete this half marathon training cycle healthy. And again, if you've signed up for the race, this is your main goal. Think about seasons of life. And for this season, this half marathon training cycle that you're in for 3 months at minimum, then maybe you're going to need to cut back on your cross training so you can be able to like fulfill your half marathon dreams, because you doing 3, 4, 5 exercise classes at your gym is not going to get you to your half marathon dreams, if that makes sense.
You took the words out of my mouth when you said the season. This is the season you're showing up to do something new, something you've never done before. Give it what it needs, and that's your attention and its focus. And that means pushing some things off for now. That doesn't mean saying no forever, just says no for right now. Because if you can show up for yourself fully and not try to keep throwing a couple more things in there, you may not show up the way you would had you given yourself the full intention of the training. It really makes a world of difference from watching athletes try and pepper some things in because we like our routine. We want to stay with our connections and our friends. It doesn't always show up well. And I think a lot of that really shows up when those long runs come in. Oh, I got this 2 days of cross training, no problem. The long run comes in, you're not recovered. You thought you were. And that long run really suffers. And again, there goes the recovery, the time you need to show up fresh, especially as a new distance runner. You've never done it. Please show up for yourself. And maybe that means saying cross training is on the side. It's not forever, it's just not for now.
I love that. And yeah, just the importance of the long run. And I know we talked about it before, but I have to go back to it because I just thought of another thing, LaToya, and we've talked about this many times with athletes is how about this one, right? You're training for your first half marathon. Your kids got some busy sports schedules on the weekend. LaToya, I really don't have 2 hours to run. So that 10 miler that you have on my plan, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run like 5 before my, son's soccer game. And then at like 5 o'clock, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do the other 5 miles then. Is that cool? That you okay with that?
I'm cringing because I get this a lot. You're so right. I have several athletes that have lives. It's not just running. Go figure. We have to make it all work. And I sympathize as a mom of two. I get it. Running around, I volunteer, all different kinds of crazy things. Overextending myself sometimes, and now I'm stuck. I don't want that to be you during this season of training. Please don't split up the long run. The benefits of doing it are gone. They're not there. We actually increase our load for injury when we don't have enough of a recovery window before we put 5 miles on in the morning. And now it's the end of the day. We're tired. We're exhausted. We're going to go put 5 more miles on. Those are not going to be pretty miles. It's not going to show up the way we would hope it would. So if that happens, and it does happen, sometimes we need to juggle. We need to move things around. Again, it's not forever, it's just for now. So we can show up strong, successfully, and injury free so we can come back and be that parent or that caregiver with whatever we have to give back to. If we get injured, that really puts a hindrance on everything. It's really comes full circle if we do too much.
Yeah, it's just such a common thing that it's like my pet peeve. And like you said, you're losing all the benefits in the long run. The long run is literally the most important run that you're doing to complete a half marathon. So it cannot be broken up. It needs to be continuous in time. And if you do need to take a break for water, going to the bathroom, we have athletes who like maybe do loops around their house and then they stop. Do not take more than like 1 to 2 minutes. This is another pet peeve of our coaching team is sometimes we get athletes who kind of stop their watch and we can actually see how long they stop their watch for. And if they stop their watch for like 5 minutes at a time, like 5 or 6 times during the long run, now we've taken away the benefits and we've taken away your confidence that you're going to actually be able to race your half marathon without needing to take 5 different rest stops that are 5 minutes long. So you have to get that long run in. It's got to be continuous. All right. And then how about racing? Should I race before my first half marathon?
Definitely not very close to the race. I think when we have this season, this chapter going on, this is where we focus. I know some people are like, well, I have to have a tune up run. I have to have a 10 miler race in there. I don't think that's ideal for the very new beginning runner. Again, if this is your season and you've got lots of 5K, 10K races under your belt and you've got that volume and load, that's a different story. But the very new beginner, and that's really what I'm professing my love of running to right now is let's make this one race season. Let's make this your goal bucket, not show up at the 5K here. I'm going to just do a short 5K here. Oh, maybe a 10K here. I have 7 miles on the plan. I can do that. I don't think when we divide and conquer for a very new beginning runner, we water down our gains, is really what happens on that. We go out too fast. We don't recover properly. I have seen this many a time with many athletes who are not just beginners and they struggle with recovery and turning over. So if you're brand new to this, I don't think we should be sprinkling in 5Ks every 2 weeks because we have to be with our friends and show up. We can show up differently for those races. We can talk about that. I think we talked about giving back, volunteering at races and things like that. So you don't have that FOMO while you're training and you're excited. But I strongly don't encourage beginner half marathoners to do races. No.
Yeah. So if you want to do a race to familiarize yourself with what happens at races, if you don't race a lot or you've never raced before, then we definitely recommend a 5K, a 10K, longest distance. And it's not going to be within 3 weeks or 4 weeks of your actual half marathon race, is what LaToya is saying.
The time and place for them in the cycle. And when we have the right mindset when we're going into those, we can recover because we have this all or nothing mentality a lot of times. When we show up at a race, we go too hard, too hot, too fast, and it shows up on your next training run. And we don't want that for a new beginner, really for anybody, but those new beginners who may not be used to how they're feeling or acclimating or wondering what's going wrong because we put too much on a race in the preseason instead of the end game.
Now, we want to know which half marathon are you thinking of either signing up for or are already committed to finish? Drop it in the comments and let us know. Also, share any questions that you have because I would love to be able to create future content specifically for what you're going through. And I do read all my comments. Next, I'm going to share with you the top 3 tips that could make or break your half marathon experience, ensuring that you cross that finish line with a smile. But before we do that, if you're getting value from this and enjoying this information about half marathon training, we would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button so that we can continue creating free content like this so you can maintain a strong mind, a strong body, and just keep running toward 13.1. Also, if you're loving this content, then you will certainly love my half marathon training kickstart kit to start strong and stay injury free. As a kind of, this is really meant for beginner friendly guide that covers the first 2 weeks of a half marathon training plan, complete with workout breakdowns and tips for staying motivated. So you can grab your copy by going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/half marathon. Coach LaToya,
Yes.
what are the top 3 tips that could make or break a half marathon experience?
You're a new runner, and it's really important to pay attention to these 3 things. They will help you finish strong and confidently during race day if we do these things during training. And the first one is you need to not run too fast. Please don't run too fast. Don't run too fast in your training. I know we've talked about that over and over again. We mean it. We absolutely mean it. We want you to show up race day strong, ready, and have something left in the tank. When we train too hard, there's nothing left in the tank. And again, as a new runner, you don't know where that easy to hard to tempo to interval, you're not familiar with that. So let's just keep it easy. Don't run too hard. Follow the plan, easy pace. You'll finish strong, and you can take all of that energy into your next. You hear that? I'm already ready. Just queuing you up for the next half marathon, stronger and even more confident because of this. That is definitely one I see a lot
I
of
love it.
people having success with when they don't run too fast.
Okay. So running too fast during training can break, right, your half marathon experience. What's number 2?
Number 2, fueling. We need to eat. We didn't talk about this during our base plan getting you ready here, but you need to know you need to fuel and feed the machine. And that starts way in the beginning of this training, whether it's figuring out what to eat before a long run, what to eat before a short run, what to eat after a run, what to eat, fueling, nutrition. We need to feed our bodies and have a continuous source of energy, carbohydrates, while we're training. That happens with practice on all of those long runs. The long runs can be magical, setting you up for success race day when you don't have to worry about, are you going to bonk and hit the wall? No, because you know how much nutrition you need to have before race day, the week of, the day of, and during to finish strong and feel confident and ready again to go for your second half marathon.
I love it. Fuel is food, and carbs give you spark, right, to be able to finish that half marathon. What's number 3?
All right, overtraining. We talked about that. We talked about that for new beginners in regards to cross training, running too hard, running too much. I feel great during this half marathon training program. I'm going to add on some miles. I'm going to go 8, but I'm feeling sassy. Let's make it 10. Oh, that was a mistake, wasn't it? Because the next day you have a day off. That's great. They come back after that for a run, and it's horrible because you didn't have time to recover. You have strain. You might have a repetitive use injury because you're putting too much load on your body too fast. New runners get excited. They get overzealous. I am going to follow this to the T and maybe a little more because I want to show up ready. And I turn back, listen to your body, listen to the plan, grow through the training so you can show up strong and very different version of you at the end. If we overtrain, we show up as a different version, but that's injured, tired, and maybe even a little disgruntled with running. We want you to show up for this half marathon strong, and then others and others. And we learn from every training program, go with the appropriate load so you can do this again and again.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I completely agree with those 3 tips. They can make or break a half marathon training. And if we're looking at kind of the final stretch here as we come down, kind of land the plane, if you could change one thing about the misconception about getting ready for your first half marathon, what would that be?
That it has to be epic. It has to be fun. It has to be sunshine and roses. You're going out for a long run. It's great. And you're loving it. And it's just wonderful. Everybody has this conception that we show up and it just happens. We have to put in the work. We don't have bad days. We don't have bad moments. And they happen. And that's part of the reality, helping you stay strong so you can get to the end. It doesn't have to be sunshine and roses. You can have bumps along the way. You can learn. This is your first time doing it. You're going to make mistakes. Make them, learn from them, and don't repeat them. That's how you learn. You don't repeat them. And it doesn't have to show up perfect every day. It's not going to be that way. You're not knowing. You've never done this before. Give yourself grace.
I love that. I love that. And guys, just recapping here, because We've shared a lot of goodies during today's episode. I hope you really did find value in this. Just to recap what you did learn today, you really learned on how many weeks it should take you to train for a half marathon, how to choose the right half marathon plan. So we talked about some differences there, pros and cons. We talked about how fast you should run for half marathon training. We talked about how many miles you should run for half marathon training, how many rest days you should be taking. We talked about the long run. We spent a lot of time talking about that long run. We talked about strength training and how you can actually add that in a safe way into your half marathon training. We talked about cross training and how much you should do, and most likely should limit how much that you should do when we're prioritizing during this time period. We talked about, like, should you race before half marathon training? And, Coach LaToya's 3 tips that could make or break are like gold. So I hope you really do truly listen to that. And you really started the process of getting ready for your first half marathon. Now, imagine having a complete step-by-step roadmap tailored to your goals, expert guidance to keep you injury-free, and the accountability of a supportive community of runners just like you. With Healthy Runner Half Marathon Training Program, you will follow a proven, easy to stick to plan for running your best race yet. You will stay injury free with expert guidance from myself as your running physical therapist and coach on strength and recovery exercises. You will build confidence as you tackle long runs and crush your race day goals, and you will get personalized support you need from our Healthy Runner coaching team led by Coach LaToya to stay motivated and consistent. Your journey to a strong, healthy, and confident half marathon finish starts here. So I invite you to join Healthy Runner Half Marathon training today. Take that next step toward your goal, because you deserve to train smarter, feel stronger, and cross that finish line proud, so you can continue enjoying a lifelong injury-free running. And you can spring forward into half marathon shape at the time of this recording. We are opening enrollment for our once a year group style half marathon training program. It's going to open right after we turn those clocks ahead on March 10th, and we're going to close enrollment on St. Patty's Day. So March 17th. So you got to remember that time period here. And you got to grab your slot once we open it, because once we close the doors, then we start our 12-week. We talked about that, right? How many weeks it takes to train for a half marathon. We're going to start our 12-week cycle. So training's going to officially start on March 24th. And if you're listening to this before we spring forward, then get on our wait list. So then you're actually notified when enrollment opens. I'll be sending you an email to enroll. Go simply to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/team to learn more about this once a year offering for our group half marathon training. And you will get the guidance. You're going to get the plan. You're going to get the structure. You're going to get the strength training, all the exercises, and you're going to get the support from Coach LaToya and myself to be able to conquer 13.1 and honestly love it. Right. If you guys loved all the goodness that Coach LaToya gave you today, I will drop the link to all of her previous trainings so you can get insights on such as, topics of race tapering, marathon training for beginners, running while on vacation, honoring and honing in on your mental toughness as a runner. And then if you're still on the fence about half marathon, and whether or not you should sign up for one, we've actually done a whole talk about that to see if you are ready to run a half marathon. So I'll drop the link to that wherever you're watching this. And then if you're like, you know what, I'm really not interested in like a group style kind of training scenario. I don't need the community. I don't need the motivation of others around me. I'm looking, I'm very busy and I'm just looking for like a plan, told what to do. I want like one-on-one guidance, kind of get to it. Like, you can learn more about our one-on-one signature coaching program if you've missed our group half marathon training cycle, or you're just not interested in group style. Then you can learn about that by going to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/coaching. And don't forget to download your free half marathon training kickstart kit to start strong and stay injury free. I'm like excited to put this together because, as I mentioned, not a big fan of plans, and this is the first time I'm actually giving you a plan of literally what to do for the first 2 weeks of half marathon training. So I'm like super excited about that. Download your free ebook by clicking the link that I have for you. And do me a favor, guys, if you know someone who's running a half marathon and you found anything insightful that we shared with you today, like just copy the link wherever you're listening to this, watching this, share it with them if you think it would be helpful. I want our community to continue to grow and have a wonderful half marathon experience and go on to enjoy lifelong injury-free running. So thank you in advance for doing that. Coach LaToya, it's always great chatting with you, all things half marathon. I know this is like something you're passionate about. So I appreciate you taking the time today out of your busy day to educate our community.
Absolutely. I love to see people start something new, a challenge, and watch them grow. So that really is a passion of mine. I want to see you succeed. I see your light. Let me help you see your light. Coaching, running, stay strong, be smart, show up, and you'll have success.
And thank you guys for listening, whether you're listening on the podcast or you are watching on YouTube. I appreciate all of you. Now let's continue to grow a strong mind, a strong body, and let's just keep on running to 13.1. Until next time.